this meeting to order. And I think the next thing we do is the roll call. And
Yes,
Michael,
sorry, I'm trying to present the screen so this way you can see the agenda.
Oh. Well, if you can't, I can just read out the agenda items as we go along if people don't have it.
Okay.
So in Judge Jewell's absence, I'll be.
Oh, there they are.
There it goes. Okay. I'll be running the meeting until he gets there, and I'm going to rely on particularly Michael Wismer to tell me if I make any procedural errors of note, because I think that's very possible. So I guess, Crystal, can you take the roll?
Sure. Tommy Joel, like you said, is going to be late. Debbie Strongin,
Present.
Debbie Dodge,
Present.
Diane Dosal,
Present.
Oh, there she is.
Diane Layden,
Present.
and Michael Wismer.
Present.
It's like we have
Okay.
a quorum.
Great, thank you. All right, so the next thing on the agenda is the consent agenda approval of the minutes for the February 11th, 2022 meeting. Debbie Dodge, do you have your hand up? Or
No, I'm sorry.
checking?
It looks like
All right.
Tommy Joel just joined.
Oh,
Okay.
great. Okay, then why don't we wait a moment?
And Judge Joel, if you could hear me, I'm moving you to panelist. You may have to approve.
You hear me?
Yes, we hear you. We don't see you.
Okay, it looks like he's a panelist now. He's just on mute.
Okay. Okay.
Not sure. You can hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. We don't see you. You may need to turn on the video.
Can you see me now?
Yes. Okay. Great. Well,
Well, Madam Vice Chair, you are just doing such a great job. Would you please continue?
okay. Well, we were up to the third agenda item, approval of the minutes for the February 11th, 2022 meeting. Does anyone move to approve those minutes?
This is Michael. I will move to approve the minutes of the February 11th, 2022 meeting.
Okay.
I'll
and-
second it.
Okay, Diane Layden, second. So the minutes of the last meeting are approved.
You might, Madam Chair, you might
Yes.
want the record to reflect the vote. So you might want to.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Yes, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? I don't see anyone opposed, so it's 6 in favor of approving the minutes for the February 11th, 2022 meeting. And then we can move on to the next agenda item, which is the Sheriff's Office comment. And I believe Under Sheriff Corrin has joined us.
Yeah, I don't have any comment at this time from the Sheriff's Office.
Okay, then maybe what we'll do is if there are issues that come up later that you'd like to comment on, or if we have questions, if you're still able to join the meeting, then we will, we'll call you in again at that point, or feel free to ask to speak.
Yeah, the only thing I'll throw in is that I do hope you can hear me, but we have a supervisor, Sergeant James Frederickson, who's logged on to the meeting to address any questions you might have about the multi-agency task force. He's a very experienced detective and supervisor over the violent crimes and homicide.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
some of that broke up for me. I'm not sure what the undersheriff said.
Also for me.
yeah, for me too.
Okay, let me try this again. Can you hear me better now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Just want to point out that I have Sergeant James Frederickson on the meeting as well. He's a very experienced supervisor and detective over our violent crimes and homicide unit, and he'll be available to give you an overview of the multi-agency task force. Did you hear me?
Yes, thank you. And welcome Sergeant Frederickson. Is there any statement that you would like to make at this point, or would you like to wait until questions arise later?
This is Sergeant Frederickson. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I'll be available for any questions. I'm not sure what you're looking for me to speak on at this moment, so I'll just refrain from making any comments at the moment, but
Okay.
I'll be available.
Well, feel free to, to ask to speak later in the meeting if there is something that you would like to comment on.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, then I guess we move to the next agenda item as the public comment. And I noticed we have a number of people who are here. Crystal, do we have people who have signed up to comment or who've asked comment?
We do. So the first person I have on the list to speak is Roman or Bernadette.
Madam Chair, Crystal,
good.
but before we start with the public comment, might I just ask the chair to remind our speakers that we have a 2-minute limit. And while certainly we don't attempt to edit anybody's comments, if there is material in there that is inappropriate for the airways, I would like Crystal to have the authority to stop or to mute the speakers. Certainly it's not an effort to editorialize, but we certainly need to be mindful that this is a public meeting and appropriate decorum in the comments is necessary.
Thank you, Chairman Jewell, and I agree with that. And perhaps we can give a warning before turning off someone's mic, just to let someone know that they have reached the 2-minute time and they need to wrap it up.
I'd be glad to keep time for you, Madam Chair.
Alrighty.
Sounds perfect. And that
So
would
the
be Vice Chair, by the way.
We'll see
Just a
about that.
reminder. All right, so Crystal, I believe you said that we have Ramon to make a statement.
Is he on the line? I've unmuted the attendee, or sorry, I've allowed attendees to speak because I know we have some dial-ins. If Ramon or Bernadette is on the line and would like to speak now. Maybe a possibility they weren't able to make it. The next person I have on the list is Amir.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, and everyone else. My name is Amir Chappell, and I've been a longtime resident of Albuquerque, District 4, and I'm here today to express my support for the board and the work they do, but I'm also here to fully support the advice and recommendations the board has made in their annual report. Under the outgoing Sheriff's Office administration, some of the engagement with the community has been strained. But I'm here to throw my support behind the work that the board is doing and really importantly, under Sheriff Corrin, as I know he will be a change agent as it relates to some of the priorities and concerns of this board. In my professional work in the city of Albuquerque, in the county of Bernalillo, and in the state of New Mexico, I have engaged many of the criminal justice system partners and stakeholders, and I've worked with Under Sheriff Corn on many issues, including data transparency issues. Many of the challenges at BCSO are not because it's not because they don't want to do things, but they're not necessarily technologically equipped or staffed to be able to attend to some of these technology and other data issues that they have. Believe it or not, Under Sheriff Corn helped me save a dog running down Central, which subsequently defecated on him after being rescued. And you know what he did? He smiled. In another instance, I crashed my motorcycle, and while off duty, Under Sheriff Corn was driving by, and what did he do? He pulled over, checked on me, made sure I was okay. I went off to the ER, and he rode my motorcycle home. This is
30
a sign of,
seconds, Madam
this
Chair.
is a sign of a man with good character, and I know he will work with the board in collaboration for the work to come. If we want the board to be able to do the work that it's planning on doing, and the transparency and accountability and all the things that the board's attending to, I think Under Sheriff Corn is the man to help you get that done. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Chappelle. Do any board members have any comments or questions concerning that statement? Not seeing any. I think we can move on to the next person.
The next person I have is Carlos. Carlos, are you on the line? I see a hand up. Are you able to speak? Carlos, are you on the line to speak?
Perhaps we can move on to the next person, and if Carlos is able to get back in, we can take his comments.
I don't have anyone else on the list. I do have the attendees all allowed to speak at this time. If there's anyone on that wasn't able to sign up or call me, if they'd like to speak now.
I'm not seeing anyone else. Are you, Crystal?
No, I'm seeing a hand up and the person's unmuted, but I'm not hearing anything.
I see that as well. And I also see someone, I guess, who has called in who's muted. But I don't see any names for either of those. And I see the hand just went down, so I guess that's. All right, well, in that case, I guess we'll just move on to, there being no other public commenters, we'll move on to item 6 on the agenda, new business. And the first is public outreach updates from Floyd Vasquez.
Good morning,
Morning.
Ms. Vice Chair, Mr. Chair, and members. As Crystal mentioned earlier, we are now using the webinar function of Zoom, which is why this is different. It allows the public to view the meetings live. If they came up to the page and clicked the link now, they would be able to open this and see it. So thank you, Crystal, for making this change, and a little bit more on that in a moment. Board recruitment. Following the February 11th, 2022 meeting, I reached out to commissioners to ask if they wanted a news release to assist with recruitment of new board members. Commissioner Quesada took me up on that offer, and we sent a news release on March 8th that included a flyer with step-by-step instructions on how to submit a resume online for consideration. The news release was picked up by a couple of news aggregator websites and received wide distribution on county platforms, including Facebook and Twitter, both the main Bernalillo County accounts as well as Commissioner Quesada's accounts. The news release and instructions were also posted in several places on bernco.gov, the homepage, on Commissioner Quesada's district homepage and in the news release archive. On the website, we've taken a number of steps to make the SORB homepage on burnco.gov more informative. You'll find that website at burnco.gov/SOARB. Crystal is providing recordings of these meetings, and I've started archiving them on Bernalillo County's YouTube page. I've embedded an associated playlist of meetings on this homepage. It includes the last two meetings of February and December, and I'll be adding them going forward. The 2021 annual report is there to be downloaded as well as information on members and membership. There is also a link on the page to view this meeting live, as well as the link and phone number to sign up to speak in advance. Finally, media relations. We were able to coordinate a couple of interviews recently. Judge Jewell, Under Sheriff Corrin, and I appeared on last week's episode of Eye on New Mexico with host Brittany Costello. It aired last weekend on KOB TV, and we have shared the video on our social media platforms. And then this week, Judge Jewell appeared on the KRQE Morning Show. That appearance was also shared on social media channels. And that's the report, and I'm available for any questions if anyone has any.
Well, thank you, Floyd, that I was able to view both of those videos of the two appearances you mentioned, and they were both great, really, really well done. And so thank you for that. Does anybody have any questions?
Yes, this is Michael. Just a comment. I think we should relabel Judge Jewell to the Silver Tongued Devil.
I second.
He is good.
I decline. I have my hand up. I guess I can lower that, and if the chair will permit, I'd really like to
The
thank
vice chair.
While you're in that seat, you're the chair.
Okay.
But I won't argue the point. I want to thank Floyd and you. I felt just very well prepared, and of course, Floyd was right by my side on Eye on New Mexico, and Under Sheriff Corrin was gracious as we shared that stage, and certainly we want to thank him for that. I think it gave the appearance to the public that this could be a potential place for them to feel free to comment. So I want to thank both of those gentlemen and today's chair and our vice chair, Debbie Strongin, for that.
All right, and I think at least one of those videos was distributed to board members. So thank you again, Floyd and Mr. Chair and Under Sheriff Corrin. You did a great job, and it really presented this SORB as a cooperative effort between the Sheriff's Office and the members of this board. And that's very much appreciated. Anything else on that topic?
Not related to that topic, Madam Chair, and forgive this disruption, but
Sure.
Crystal, did we have any written comment? I know we finished public comment, but was there something written to the board?
Just the email sent from Bernadette that was distributed to the board and the Sheriff's Office. I did just text an individual that was trying to get into the board meeting, letting her know the call-in. And actually, it looks like she just joined, Jasmine. Should I see if she wanted to make a comment? Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Hi, Jasmine. I know you were just added trying to get on there. Did you have a public comment that you would like to make?
I did not. I just wanted to be here to take the notes, and I'm going to be sharing everything with Representative Meredith.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And Jasmine, I believe, if I'm right, that you are the campaign aide for Representative Meredith Dixon, sorry.
I'm sorry, you're muted, Jasmine.
Sorry about that. Yes, I am Meredith's right hand right now. So, I'm doing some of the official work as well as some of the campaign stuff.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, are there any other comments or emails, letters from members of the public?
Should we discuss that email?
Yeah, I don't have it in front of me, but possibly Crystal does. Can put it up on the screen.
The only thing is I haven't had a chance to redact any of the information. So if I were to share it, I wouldn't want her email to be on here.
Okay, right.
It was about her experience, and if possible, maybe after this we could reach out to her and see if there's any written statement she wants to give if her husband can't attend the meeting.
Why don't we do that? And we can just move her comment if she would like to our next agenda.
Have that noted.
Okay. Anything else on that? All right, seeing no hands up. The next item on the agenda is the board meeting schedule discussion and the idea of meeting in person next month. And Diane Dosal is listed for that item. Diane?
Hi.
Hi, good morning.
So I did entertain that discussion about in person because there's still a lot left up in the air, but my goal was to try and see what everyone thought about the current time and dates for these meetings. And I was able to ask everyone, and everyone seemed to agree that this time and day of the week works best for everyone, and they would like to keep it as is. Diane Layden, I'll hand off to her, but she was interested in having 2 meetings a year for the public, and she wanted me to relay that information to the board to see what everyone thought about, maybe making it more open to the public, one on an evening or on a weekend, to make it more accessible. So I didn't know if Diane Layden wanted to speak more to that, but as it stands, everyone seemed to be fine with the current time and day of the week for these meetings.
And it looks like Layden has her hand up.
Yeah, I'll speak for holding specifically public meetings in the evening or on the weekend or one of each per year, and providing a lot of public notice of those meetings, maybe months in advance, maybe in the newspaper as well as on the county website. Just a thought.
I think it sounds like an excellent idea, and I'm just wondering logistically, and to be in compliance with all of the recording requirements and so forth under the open meetings laws, is it possible to do that on an evening or weekend? Because it would mean county employees would also need to be involved, I assume.
Madam Chair or
Yes.
Vice Chair, this is Michael. Can I add some
Please.
comment to that? The requirement to record was put out in an advisory notice by the Attorney General's office as we stepped into the Zoom world at the beginning of the pandemic.
Mhm.
What is really required in the Open Meeting Act is that minutes be provided for every open meeting. So there isn't really a strong requirement or law that our public meetings be recorded, although it's a nice practice. But if we wanted to have a public meeting, recording shouldn't be a barrier, because we don't really have to do it when we're in the public realm. And I'd also, while I still have the microphone and I'm still unmuted, I'd still like to put in a advocacy for in-person meetings as soon as we can. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Anybody else on that topic?
Madam Chair,
Yes. Yes,
I
Mr.
think
Chair.
it's an excellent idea as well to try to make ourselves more available for public input through having some public meetings, either or both on a weekend day, as well as perhaps an evening, a night. I think that Diane Dosal has along with Diane Layden, has basically given us something to think about, and the logistics of it need to be worked out. I don't know that we can put staff in the position of being available at night or on the weekend, and to the extent that we need staff, we need to flesh that out. So I agree in concept and think it needs to be explored a little further.
Yeah.
I agree with that, and I'm wondering if anybody knows whether if we didn't have county staff, could one of the board members be designated to take minutes for a meeting if that's permitted?
Daniel, would you be able to assist with that question?
I'm sorry, can everyone hear me? This is Daniel.
Yes.
Okay, hey, hello everyone. Yes, that's also possible. I'm not sure what time, and I know the scheduling and the details are being worked out. But nothing in the Open Meeting Act prohibits a member of the board from taking the minutes. As Mr. Wismer said, the requirement is just to take minutes, and it's usually it can be shorter or longer, just making sure you cover all the topics discussed.
Okay, and would we need to take a formal vote on that, or could we just, at the meeting or just before the meeting, designate one of the board members to take minutes?
Yes, or they can volunteer. There's
Okay.
a vote is not necessary. It could be anyone that volunteers or anyone that is voted into this position.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I'll help facilitate this process by volunteering straight up front to take minutes for any meeting that we don't have a staff member present for or are not recording. So that should make it, when we do make the decision, hopefully that'll make it a bit easier.
That's great. And anybody else is also free to volunteer from the board for that purpose. And I'm wondering, Under Sheriff Corrin, if we were to do that, do you think that a member of the sheriff's office might be able to join that meeting to have direct contact with any members of the public that wanted to raise issues?
Well, we can certainly try to have somebody available at these meetings. That's just send me the invite and I'll see what we can do.
Great. Okay, well, we'll coordinate with all relevant parties before arranging that. And I guess maybe we should put this on the agenda for next month's meeting. And possibly the two Dianes could investigate further timing and venue for such meetings and subject matter. Or maybe we would, I guess you're thinking we would have kind of an open agenda, but it would be solely for the purpose of public comment. So Diane Dosal and Diane Layden, would you want to work on sort of establishing a time and possibly a venue? I don't know if we would have access to county facilities, or would we need to find, I don't know, a library or a school auditorium or a park or something to have a meeting like this?
You may be able to use a community center as well.
Yes.
Good point. Okay, that's a very good idea. So does anyone want to take on the job of investigating time and place for such a meeting?
I think we just need to figure out what community center is available. So I would have to, I don't know, ask for Crystal's help on that. And I don't know, I'm gonna have to think about this one, but yes, I'll look into it further.
Great.
I'll help, Diane. If you can use help, I'll help you.
I might just do for email
Yeah.
to everyone, getting everyone's input and suggestions, because it's working around a lot of different schedules. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. It's a great idea.
And I'll get you the contacts for those community centers.
Okay.
Sounds good.
All right, any other comments on that?
Yeah, Madam Chair, related to that, but not on the subject of a weekend or evening meeting. I think we're off schedule, and I think it's largely because of the missing of the January meeting as a result of the outage. And I don't know if we want to get back on schedule, but I think as Floyd and I have talked to the public in a variety of ways, we've said that the meetings are on the second Friday at 11. And of course, now we're here on the fourth Friday of March. And I don't know if we're wanting to get back on schedule in April or
Yes.
continue to be a month away.
I would like to get back on the second Friday schedule for April.
Agreed.
I agree as well.
I think would be April 8th would be this, is that right? Let me see.
Yes.
Yes. So does anybody have a problem with that date, April 8th?
I don't have a problem with getting back on schedule. However, I don't think that I can make that particular meeting due to being out of town, but I might be able to join in for the first session, for the first
Okay.
part, just as an FYI. But I do think we should get back on track. Yes.
All right, thank you. And I guess, Danette, we should check with you if that will be okay with your schedule.
Yeah,
It'd be April 8th, 11 o'clock.
that'll work for my schedule.
Great.
And with that too, I don't know if you wanted to discuss the about whether to meet in person on the next one.
Okay, so who wants, let's just have a show of hands of board members that are willing to meet or able to meet in person. And then I guess it's also a matter of what the county regulations are. And I don't know at this point what those regulations are.
So just so you guys know, I talked with Julianne Baca and she said that it is okay for the board to meet in person.
Okay. And so would that meeting take place at the new county center that we've all heard?
It can, and I do see Daniel's hand up and a few of the board members' hands up as well.
Okay.
Daniel, did you have something to add?
Yes, and I just wanted to express with everyone that the county commission has had a couple, I think there has been several meetings already in person starting this month. The oversight board for the jail had their meeting in person as well. So because the county commission is kind of the spearhead, the leader of it, I want to say that this board could take advantage of that as well. They just need to coordinate availability.
Okay, and would you, Daniel or Crystal or Danette, know what the requirements are to go into that building or go into a meeting in terms of masking or any other requirements like that?
There are currently no masks requirements anymore inside the Alvarado Square Bernalillo County building. You
Mhm.
are free to use your own mask if you feel the need to,
Mhm.
but there's no current requirement to wear a mask in the building at this time.
Okay, so are there any board members who are opposed to meeting in person next month, assuming the regulations all stay as they are now? I don't see
A
all.
related question, Madam Chair, are we capable of doing hybrid?
Good question.
So Danette and I actually have been having some conversations of that. That would take a little bit more research to just see, because we have to ensure that people online, if some of the board members wanted to come in virtually, we have to make sure that they are heard just the same as people in person. So that would take a little research on our end, but if that is an option you want to move forward with, Danette and I can look into that.
That would be great. And maybe you can just let us know in the course of the next few weeks before the meeting.
If you want to take a vote on that, and then if it comes out that you want, and then, dependent on the availability of it, that's fine.
Okay, so well, do I hear a motion to have in-person meetings next month?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
Debbie Dodge, seconds. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
4. Okay, so 4 in favor. I am staying neutral on this topic. So the motion passes. So we will assume next month that we'll meet in person. And if possible, if some kind of hybrid situation can be set up, Crystal will, or Danette will let us know if that's doable.
Madam Chair, might I just ask Crystal and or Daniel if the county commission or the detention center board have used hybrid?
And this is Daniel. The county commission has been fully in person. The DFMO meeting was actually, it wasn't large enough and there was some technical issues. So we actually moved to a conference room. The county has several large conference rooms where these hearings can occur. And the thing that's unique and actually quite interesting about those conference rooms is they have on the wall a giant flat screen TV with a camera on the bottom that I can see it easily being usable for a hybrid model if that's what the board wanted to do. I'm not sure if the chambers has this capability, but it's one of the most high-tech ones. I would assume that the chambers has this as well. But it will take some coordination to do.
Thank you. Yeah, I would, oh, Debbie Dodge, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I was just lucky enough to do a tour of that new building last Saturday to see the public art collection they have there. And yeah, it's all very state of the art. And from what I understand, even in the chambers that we would be able to do that. It just might take some investigation to figure out how.
Right. No, that I think it would be great if we could do that. And I may just not be able to go to an in-person meeting, and that's, totally a matter of certain medical issues that I won't go into at all. But I think it's a great idea. I think it's high time we meet in person. And so if we can see if it's possible to do hybrid, that would be great. And hopefully we can all meet in person next month.
And that room is huge. There's plenty of space between chairs and, everything. So,
Great.
yeah, and I think they have state-of-the-art ventilation. I mean, it's a phenomenal building. It really is. So.
Okay, let me ask, are there security requirements? If you go in to the building, do you have to leave your cell phone at the desk or go through a
No.
metal detector, or what's the?
There is a metal detector, but
Okay.
cell phones are allowed in,
Okay.
and weapons. They check for weapons and stuff like that.
And weapons, I assume, are not allowed in.
It depends because the county building. It depends on the weapon. It's a convoluted legal mess.
Mhm.
But for the most part, I want to say no. We do offer, I believe we offer gun lockers, but there's also the sheriff down there. You do have
Well,
arms.
I mean, with the exception of law enforcement, obviously,
Yeah,
but members
correct.
of the public, for example, who are coming in to make comments, that's kind of what I'm talking about, not.
Let me do some more double checking. I don't know what the official final policy was. I know there was some legal issues in the county prohibiting just a blanket prohibition of guns because of the nature of the government building. I know, my understanding is right now courthouses, it's not allowed. The DA's offices, it's not allowed. In county buildings and city buildings, we're kind of up in the air.
Okay, all right, thanks. If you can let us know on that, that would be great. Just an email or, something.
Of course.
In the course of the next month would be appreciated. Okay, anything else? All right, not seeing anything else. The next item is discussion of ethical and legal restrictions on political activities by board members, and including advice from the county legal department. And I know Daniel emailed me that there don't appear to be any specific restrictions on political activities by members of this board. Is that correct, Daniel?
Yes, Madam Chair. There are no actual restrictions that I could find specifically for this board. You may exercise your political rights as you wish. Of course, if you want to disclose it, that's up to you, but there's nothing restricting any members of the board from donating or having their own beliefs in any kind of upcoming elections.
Right. So I guess what we may want to consider as a board are there certain ethical considerations as to how upfront and public any of us should be with respect to the Bernalillo County Sheriff's Office race that's coming up later this year, and whether that would have any impact on the credibility or outreach or approachability of the board. And none of this would be binding, but I just thought I would raise this topic as I receive every day more solicitations from assorted candidates for the office.
Okay.
Um,
And this is Daniel, I apologize. There is one little caveat, and I'm sorry, Judge Jewell. There's a special provision for judges though in the Government Conduct Act. So any person that's an acting judge has their own requirements there that may restrict them, and that's the only one I would caution of. But as an actual member of the board, and it doesn't necessarily have to do with any other work, there's no restrictions.
Okay, did you say as an active judge or an acting judge?
I think active. It applies for anyone doing any kind of pro tem work as well.
Okay.
And may even apply to family members. And I'd just like to disclose that my wife does sit a day a week, and so we think that the Code of Judicial Conduct probably has application to her and to me, and so I accept that. But more to the chair's point, I think we do need to have a discussion of board ethics as a public endorsement of certainly of any sheriff's candidate would destroy the credibility of this board. And so I have that concern. I think the use of this platform for political advertisement period cuts at the credibility of the board. But I think specifically as to the sheriff's race, we need to make sure that we're not giving the appearance that we're aligned with any particular campaign. And of course, we've already established policy around who may portend to be a spokesperson for the board. So I don't think we need to cover that. But I think we need to circumscribe our behavior such that we're not giving the appearance that this board is politically aligned. And that's just my position, as the chair has indicated. I don't know that that's owing on anybody, but I think we need to have that discussion. Thank you.
I see Debbie Dodge's hand is up.
I was just wondering if that would apply to, I mean, I can understand, and I agree that doing any formal public support of someone would not be good. Would that prohibit us from giving monetarily to a candidate?
No, I don't believe it would, but I'll let Daniel speak to that.
That is correct. There's nothing prohibiting from you to donating to a specific candidate.
Okay.
Anybody else on that topic?
Yeah, Madam Chair, and
Yes,
I don't want my comments construed as a limitation on anybody's political rights. I'm just saying, as a board, perhaps there can be agreement as to how we will circumscribe our conduct. And I think what I mean by that is around the board. Certainly, people have the ability to distinguish their political preferences from what might appear to be the board's perhaps political mission. So I'm whether you give money or whether you publicly endorse, it seems your business. But when you say, as a member of the SORB, I am endorsing this candidate or another candidate, I think that needs to be addressed.
Well, I agree that as a member of the SORB, nobody should represent that it's the position of the SORB to endorse or not endorse any candidate for the sheriff's office, certainly, and possibly for any other office. And again, what we're talking about is an appearance, of possible impropriety or an appearance of conflict or bias, not necessarily actual bias, but to give public confidence to the actions of this board. I think my opinion is that even as individuals who are identified with this board, we should exercise certain restraint. And that doesn't mean not giving a contribution or attending a meeting or a debate or anything of that nature, but it would, I think there should be self-restraint on such things as possibly speaking at a meeting, being the main speaker, as an advocate for a particular candidate. And I don't know whether people agree with that or not, but that would
I
be
agree.
my view. Diane Layden?
I agree. I agree.
Does anyone have any other comments on that? Are you sort of comfortable with that? It's not even really guidance. It's just with that thought.
I totally agree with that. Yeah.
Okay. So is there anyone who doesn't agree or who has, issues with that?
Madam Chair, this is Michael.
Hi, Mike.
The comment that just struck me was, and I think Ms. Strongin made it, and that is in order to enhance public confidence, not taking a side or endorsing a candidate is very important. So I would like to offer to put this down in writing for the next meeting as our operating style, or I'll think of some way to frame it that we can vote on. I've been taking notes on everyone's comments, but I think in the end, if we had something in writing, it would help build that public confidence that Ms. Strongin was just talking about, that we are here to do what our mission is and be the conduit that we're supposed to be, and not an endorser of any one candidate. And I feel kind of strongly about it enough to I'll draft the words and verbs.
All right, that sounds good to me. And if you can possibly distribute that to everybody sometime before our next meeting, not that we can communicate with each other about it, but we'll at least have an opportunity to look it over. Great. I see your thumbs up, which I assume means you will be happy to do that. All right. Any other comments on that? All right.
And then Debbie Strongin, I do see that before that item, we had questions on body worn cameras. I didn't know if you wanted to table that. That was talked about the last meeting, that you're going to submit questions. I don't know if those ever came in.
Yeah, the questions never came in, so we can table that and for now. Okay, so the next item is the involvement of multi-agency task force and deputy involved shootings. And we're fortunate to have Sergeant Fredrickson here, as well as Under Sheriff Corrin. And I think Diane Dosal wanted to address this issue. And our prior discussion had been whether there is an appearance of a possible conflict of interest when the agency, the lead investigative agency for an officer involved shooting is the agency from that the shooter came from. And again, this is just a concern with the public's perception of an appearance of conflict. There may in fact not be a conflict. So Diane, please go ahead. Diane Dosal.
Sure. So I think that we've been talking about this since the draft of the annual report. And we, as board members, weren't all on in agreement or on the same page about how it was originally written up, but essentially my recommendation was that if we are recommending on an annual report to county commissioners what we're identifying as a recommendation, then we should also have some insight to it as well, and not assume you know, anything really, unless we have some, we are privy to further information. I happen to be, just because of, you know, my prior career, but some members of the board might not be. So I thought it would be a great idea to have someone from BCSO come in and talk to that about multi-agency task force and why it might be really easy to say, why don't we allow another agency to take over, when in reality, the logistics just are, you know, a little too much. I mean, to say maybe another agency can handle this BCSO shooting, officer involved shooting. So we had, it was written on the annual report that there appears to be a conflict of interest that would diminish public confidence, but I see it, you know, I mean, we all agreed on that language. I just wanted to make sure that someone from BCSO came in and kind of spoke a little bit more to that. And with the MOA, you know, we talked about that and how there are checks and balances to the process, and that, you know, the district attorney is involved in that process, and the district attorney prior to him and the district attorney prior to that person have always been on, you know, in agreement with the way those investigations are conducted. So now that we actually do have a representative from BCSO, maybe they could just give us a quick, you know, overview of what that looks like. A multi-agency task force, that there are indeed checks and balances, that there are people that come in from, you know, other agencies to assist in the investigation, that it is a fair and transparent investigation, especially due to the MOA. So that was really it. I think just, having that further insight just gives us the knowledge that we need as board members.
Okay, thank you. Sergeant Frederickson, would you like to weigh in on this topic?
So he's on mute.
Oh, Sergeant Fredericks. Oh, now he's,
Yes, I'm having some computer difficulties. Can you hear me now?
yes.
Okay, sorry about that. I was switching it to my phone. Yeah, so I guess the debate on whether or not we should have another agency investigating is it's a national debate. Some agencies do have they have other agencies do their investigations. Ours has chosen to, along with state police and APD, to have the lead agency or the agency involved in whatever the incident is, be the lead agency in the investigation. I would agree that yes, there is an appearance of some potential conflict of interest, maybe some bias. I don't know how to eliminate that without creating other issues. I mean, being part of this task force for the past almost 10 years now, I'd say there isn't really, there's no conflict of interest really, but how do we show that to others or to the community? I'm not really sure, other than being as transparent as possible, which I think we've gotten better at doing over the past few years. During an investigation, Stevie, an idea of how it's done is, say, Bernalillo County, APD, and state police, we can have all three agencies involved in a shooting incident. Say it's the county officers who are the primary responders to the incident. Maybe they were the initial deputies involved in the shooting. In that case, we'd be the lead agency. Well, because we're lead, we also take on a secondary investigator who follows the complete investigation alongside the primary investigator. The secondary investigator is going to be always somebody from a separate agency. Not only someone from a different agency, but from someone more experienced as well. There is no aspect of the investigation that's conducted by the agency itself. We always have a primary and a secondary officer conducting everything, and those, for the most part, will not be from the same agency. Common practice for us is the primary officer will always share anything the secondary investigator requests, be it video, participating in interviews, just watching interviews. We'll share anything with the other agency that they request or they haven't been privy to during the investigation. Are there any questions regarding anything I just spoke about, I guess?
This is Debbie Strongin, and I think it's interesting what you're describing, because I'm wondering if, since it sounds like the primary and the secondary investigator actually work in tandem, I think this was suggested during the interview that Judge Jewell and Under Sheriff Corrin and Floyd Vasquez did the other day, that maybe all we're talking about is a need for a change in terminology in the multi-task force agreement to make clear that, it's not, BCSO is doing all the investigation and nobody else has anything to say about it really, just by virtue of the terminology lead investigator. And maybe they could be called co-investigative agencies, or co-lead investigators. I'm not sure whether something like that makes sense, but I'd like to hear your opinion about it.
If just some clarifying language is all it needs, I wouldn't be opposed to it. Again, I don't make the decision. I can make suggestions off of my opinion, but I don't make the decisions on it. But it has been common practice ever since I started doing these investigations. The other agencies involved are always part of every aspect of the investigation. Just like any investigation we do, usually have a primary and a secondary investigator. If for no other reason, your second investigator is just a witness to what has gone on so that they can testify if the primary investigator is not available.
And
in the
The second-
multi-agency investigations, the secondary investigators also, when we're conducting interviews with, we'll just say, deputies involved in shootings, the secondary investigator isn't just there as a witness. They're also available to ask any questions that they may wish to ask.
Right, so it sounds like the secondary investigator, it really is working in tandem with the primary investigator, and their functions are quite similar in that respect. And so maybe just a change in terminology.
And
Just-
also it is inferred by multi-agency task force. It doesn't say BCSO task force. So if we need to further, or if they need to further the language, that's fine. It's just, I do believe that there is transparency in that phrase itself, multi-agency task force.
I agree with that. I just think that the members of the public may not know the name of the task force, but they are being told, this person is the lead investigator and that person is from the agency that did the shooting of, their loved one. And so it again raises that issue. But if there's, if every person involved at the top of the investigation is, if the two primary or the secondary and the primary are from different agencies, then I think that would, making that known to the public through just the terminology would be very advantageous to everybody. So.
Madam
since-
Chair, Madam.
Yes. Yes,
And I
Judge.
see hands going up now. I appreciate the insights that my colleague Diane Dosal brings to this, and the comments of the sheriff's sergeant with respect to his experience. And I want to remind us that this wasn't just born as we compiled the report, that we actually had some public comment indicating from a family member of a shooting victim that their experience led them to believe that there was a conflict. And so I think as you have suggested, Madam Chair, we deal here more with appearance than substance. And it is not, I think, our effort to disrupt the way things that are going, but as you say, to eliminate what appears to be conflictual. I think this member of the public had actually had contact with the investigator who was actually from the sheriff's office in her experience, and that's what appeared improper to her. And so as we move forward in this, I just want to make sure that there's a sensitivity to the appearance in the public, not necessarily that we take issue with the substance of how this gets investigated, but that there is always a check for the public if they find something amiss, a way that they can give voice to that without feeling intimidated in doing that. I yield, Madam Chair.
I'm not sure what happened with her. She may have accidentally dropped off.
Okay, well, in her absence, let me go ahead and resume the chair temporarily. And I think
we have some hands up.
Yeah, Debbie Dodge has a hand up, Mike Wismer, and I don't know if James Frederick is trying to get back. He's got a hand up as well. Debbie Dodge?
Oh, yes, sir. I'm still here. I didn't know, I would like to comment on it. I don't know if it's appropriate to speak first or raise my hand first. I can yield.
Let me, if I might direct this, Sergeant, is it Frederick's son?
Frederickson, yes, sir.
Let me hear from Board Member Dodge, Mr. Wismer, and then we'll allow you to continue your comment. Debbie Dodge.
Yeah, I was just going to say that if, you know, if the sheriff's office is giving a statement about an investigation, they could certainly easily say that 2 people were the lead investigators or whatever, but you know, most of the time the public's hearing from news stories and things, and there's really no way to control that. They're going to say what they're going to say, but we could encourage that, or the sheriff's office could encourage that maybe.
Thank you, Mr. Wismer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One of the things in a previous meeting that was mentioned by Under Sheriff Korn was one of the ways to deal with perceptions that are out there is to provide information. And so here's when Sergeant Frederickson responds, I'd like him to speak to the process in this multi-agency task force that if there is such a process in place that keeps those impacted by the shooting informed as the investigation goes along. I'm just curious as to if that is addressed and how, and if so, how, because to circle back to my original comment, if information is being provided at a regular basis on the status of the investigation, it seems to me it might help tamp down unnecessary perception. So I just like Sergeant Frederickson to answer or speak to that when he does provide an answer. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Sergeant Frederickson.
Yes, sir. I'll answer that question first. I'll try and answer it as best I can. There is no clear process when dealing with family members of those involved in these types of investigations. There's our standard process that we do for, say, homicide victims or family members of homicide victims. We try and keep people informed as best we can. Due to the nature of the investigations, I know no one likes to hear that we can't release anything until the investigation is complete. Unfortunately, there is a lot of truth to that, because when we're still conducting interviews of people involved or trying to gather information, we don't want to taint the investigation with information provided to those witnesses. Sometimes, just because of the nature of the investigation, it may take us sometimes several weeks to get an interview with an officer, because we can't force them to give an interview. This is a criminal investigation, so they have the rights as everybody else. In those 2 weeks that we're waiting for an interview, we don't want to release to the media or to family members any information, because for fear of that getting out to or making its way to the witness or the officer involved. That's the primary purpose of not releasing much information. Dealing with family members of those involved in these investigations is a very touchy subject. I mean, I've personally had to do the notifications or death notifications saying, hello, ma'am, you know, one of my coworkers basically was involved in a shooting with your son and killed your son this morning. But that's an extremely difficult conversation to have as it is. And then explaining to them the ins and outs of the investigation, and in the end, what the outcome is. Oftentimes, you can imagine, nobody's ever happy with the outcome of the investigation. So no, we don't have a process to that. We try and keep the family informed as much as possible. We do have a victims liaison who attempts to keep in contact with family. However, oftentimes they're not wanting to speak with us unless there's a question they have that usually we can't answer right away. I wish there was a clear process, just so something I could say that we follow, and then nobody can get mad at me for the decisions we make on how we answer questions. But at this point, no, there's no standard for it.
I see Under Sheriff Korn has his hand up as well. Let me recognize him.
I want to, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
First and foremost, I want to thank Sergeant Frederickson for joining this meeting and kind of short notice. I do want to appreciate his input. I thought it was important that we have somebody with his amount of experience coming in and talking to the board. I just want to kind of add to some of the discussion here. And it really comes down to the complexities of some of these these investigations is really on a case-by-case matter, and the demand, balancing each investigation and the complexities of that investigation with the demand for public information, whether it be to the family or to the media or anybody who's making an inquiry, is a daunting challenge at times. And that's one of the reasons why we do name a lead agency or primary agency in these investigations, just to kind of mitigate those issues and make sure that it's important to mitigate the amount of the information that's going out. So we don't want to necessarily have 3 different agencies all talking about the one shooting or the one incident and putting out, and then the media or somebody else putting together their versions of what they're hearing from these 3 different sources. And so that's one of the reasons too, is just to have that consistency and minimize issues with misinformation that might be going out. But that's all I wanted to add.
Well, thank you both. I think those law enforcement insights are very important for us. And I want to remind you all that we are merely advisory. And so just as I have to tell some of my clients in my law office, it's just advice. And so I appreciate that you all have a sensitivity to public perception and what you do with this information and advice. And when I say you, I mean the agency is certainly up to you. It's not up to us. But please, and obviously this language comes in the context of a multi-agency agreement. So, you know, what's true for the sheriff's office is true for the other subscribing agencies, but somehow that nomenclature, that terminology as lead can give the wrong perception. So please just be mindful of that, and we are pleased to help you explore ways of increasing the sensitivity to the appearance without suggesting that you change the process unless it's truly broken. So if there's anything else on that, we'll certainly hear it. Otherwise, you know, we can move on with our agenda. Anything else?
One more comment.
Sergeant Frederickson, I would like to say one more thing if I could, please.
Certainly.
Just some more information regarding the investigations. During one of these criminal investigations, there's a simultaneous administrative investigation going on involving the agency involved, and that's something that's not going to change as far as which agencies conducting an administrative investigation. Best practice is hopefully to first adjudicate the criminal case and then the following administrative case as well, just to preclude any legal issues that come up in between that. That would make it much more difficult to follow up on administrative investigations, I believe, if an outside agency were conducting the criminal aspect of the investigation. Just between sharing of information, maybe department heads not willing or wanting to speak with each other. Our task force also there's lines in the agreement that state which agency will also do the public information's release. And that's also going to be the lead agency involved. If you have a separate agency conducting the investigation, well, then they would probably have to be responsible for any releases because they're the ones with the majority of the information. I don't know what issues that might arise between agencies when that becomes the case. Just some other considerations, I guess, when considering what changes we might make.
And I don't know if Debbie Strongin has now permanently left our discussion. But Crystal, we don't have her back in yet.
I'm back.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, I'm back, but
You were playing invisible on me.
I had a little technical problem here.
Okay.
I have no idea what it was, but I'm back.
Okay, and Under Sheriff Corn, you had another comment.
Well, just one final comment, and that is, it's clear to me, and I hope it's clear now that there is this quality assurance the process that we have in place, and it's that's the reason behind the multi-agency task force. And I think it's also important to just point out that you know, this MOU is revised as change in management takes place, and so I just want to point out that your recommendations and your insight will be taken into advisement on the next revision, and it's not something, just like you can't speak for the board, I can't speak for the agreement between all these different agencies, but it's something that definitely I'll bring to the table.
Thank you. And Debbie Strongin, did you have anything else on that particular issue?
I just had one question, which is, I think Sergeant Fredrickson mentioned that there's an administrative investigation. I just wondered what agency does that investigation?
So that's conducted by the agency. Well, each agency will investigate their own officers or deputies individually, based on their actions.
And that, I would assume, Sergeant, regards any employment discipline that might be meted out.
That is correct. And that's why it's best practice to have the criminal aspects adjudicated first.
All right. And I should inform this conversation by saying, for a limited time, I operated as the City of Albuquerque's independent review officer. So I have at least some limited experience in going out to the scene of police shoots and getting the briefing of the multi-agency task force. And often the involved officers in that process would have their attorneys at that scene prior to the task force members being there. So I can appreciate that it is a daunting task, something difficult to control as you're attempting to control the shoot scene or the crime scene. And so I have some appreciation for the ingredients that go into that. But I still want you all to remain sensitive to its public appearance, and I appreciate Under Sheriff Corn's treatment that it's elastic, that our comments can perhaps inform any redraft or any amendment or the creation of a new MOU. So thank you. And if there's nothing else on that, we can conclude, and I'll turn the chair back over to Vice Chair Strongin.
Thank you. All right, I think we have a pretty ambitious agenda if we're going to finish here in a timely fashion. So I'm wondering if there are procedural steps we need to take to just skip an item and move it to the next meeting, or do we need to take a vote on that? Because I would suggest moving the discussion of crime stats now available on the BCSO website to our next meeting. Do we need to have a
Madam Chair, I would agree, and it would be my motion that the chair exercise discretion in guiding the discussion such that we can cut the amount of time that we need today, and things can be moved as necessary.
Okay. So let's see, moving on to making videos of the Citizens Academy available to the public. I believe that we all saw an email from Under Sheriff Corrin about that topic. And Undersheriff, if you would like to address that now, fine. Otherwise, we can just move this to the next meeting unless anybody has a comment they want to make right now. Okay. Not seeing anything. We'll put that item on for next time. Now, discussion of on the Airborne Public Safety Facility. I have Debbie Dodge on that.
Yeah, actually, there's not a whole lot of discussion on this. I mean, I've been there. I know how badly they need a new facility. They basically got a box out there with no running water or anything. But I'm just wondering from Under Sheriff Corrin if there's anything that the board could do to help facilitate this. It's actually an RFI asking for land, but I don't know whether there's anything that we could do as far as with the county commission or anything like that.
Of course, I could speak to that. I'm pretty intimately familiar with that project, and it's a project that's been going on actually since 2018. There was a GEO bond for $4.5 million that was approved included several different projects. One of them, which was for the building of a facility, Airborne Public Safety Facility. And just kind of give you guys give the board here a recap on where that project is. That $4.5 million was diverted to some other projects that were not part of that bond, but nonetheless, there has been some money that's been put aside to try to get a facility built, and the county manager has been working to try to do that, and we're currently in the process of putting an RFI, which is basically a request for information to area stakeholders and property owners around the city of Albuquerque Airport and some other areas that may want to potentially partner with us to maybe do a joint facility, perhaps with either the U.S. Forest Service or the Albuquerque Police Department hangar facility. Those discussions have taken place, at least initial discussions, but there's been nothing that's been set forth. So I think I appreciate Debbie Dodge bringing the topic up, but it's something that's important to our personnel to not only kind of reduce the response time to law enforcement requests for airborne law enforcement, but also reduce the response time for search and rescue and wildland firefighting by helicopter as well. And so it's something that, of course, I'm intimately familiar with, and I think it'd be good not only for the residents of the county, but also of the city as well. So any recommendations or stakeholders that you think might be interested, I'd be interested in hearing from them. And I think the county commission would be interested in hearing from them as well.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Yeah, that I think was going to be my question. What is APD doing? And certainly Under Sheriff Corrin mentions other agencies where there might be cooperation. And so I wonder, Under Sheriff Corrin, how we can get ourselves in a position to encourage others, because it seems to me, as you mentioned, that there are certain efficiencies in a cooperative agreement, MOU, whatever it is, you know, and there's less territoriality in, it seems to me, in air law enforcement than there might be on the ground. So I would be interested, if you could, in you bringing back some more information about what the other agencies are currently doing and how we might assist you in getting their cooperation in your vision.
I'd appreciate that. And so obviously it'll take a bit of time, so we'll probably have to put that on another agenda. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments or questions on that issue? Okay, the next item, which I think we can just do by summary, is discussion of correspondence from Commissioner Pyskoty and which has been distributed to all the board members. And Crystal, I don't know if you're able to put that up on your screen, but in it, Commissioner Pyskoty was just praising all of us for creating a cohesive working group in somewhat difficult or challenging circumstances where we haven't been able to meet in person. And it was just a very nice letter from her to all of the board. Does anybody have any questions or comments about that? Or anyone didn't receive that? Okay.
And Madam Chair, I didn't know if you were going to go forward and talk about your proposed print piece. If we're not ready for that, I don't want to broach it.
Well, I can just say briefly that Judge Jewell and I were putting together some sort of an op-ed or communication to be published, hopefully in the Albuquerque Journal, just talking a little bit about how we all created a good working group despite all the challenges, and mentioning Commissioner Pyskoty's letter, and also mentioning that we are seeking 3 more board members. So that hasn't been finalized yet. Judge Jewell, I sent you some additional comments on that, but nothing really changing the substance. Okay. So yeah, if anybody has any, we'll let you know when that comes out. It's not taking a position on anything, just kind of elaborating on what we've done in the past year. So just outreach, really. Would you have anything else, Judge Jewell, to add?
No, thank you.
Okay. Then moving on, suggestions for discussion at the next meeting. I think we have a number of items that we've specifically moved over to the next agenda, but does anyone have anything else?
Looks like Floyd.
See, Floyd?
Hi, Madam Chair and members. The election presents an opportunity for increased public exposure of the SORB, and perhaps within the confines of the board posture that has been discussed today and will be affirmed in writing, we could harness the election for outreach. Specifically, for example, the board could explicitly welcome public comment during the meeting by candidates for sheriff. So that's something members could think about and possibly discuss next month. And then a short item that, given the short turnaround to the next meeting, that a suggestion that board members consider, and anyone listening to the meeting, consider sharing the Ion New Mexico and/or KRQE appearances on personal social media and/or other channels, and invite people who may be interested to attend. You'll find both of those interviews on the Bernalillo County Facebook page, which is at facebook.com/Bernalillo County.
Okay, thank you. I think those are both definitely the second item is, presents an interesting opportunity. And I guess we would really have to talk about whether we wanted to get involved in the political arena at all by having some kind of forum for candidates. Did you say candidates for sheriff or candidates for SORB?
No, for the sheriff's office.
Yeah.
And it would not necessarily have to be a special SORB meeting for that purpose, but just an explicit recognition that a statement of that kind falls under the acceptable categories of public comment that would be heard by the board.
Thank you. Judge Jewell, would you like to weigh in on that at all?
Well, yeah, I think with the guidance that Michael Wismer's going to distill for us, it's not a bad idea for us to know who's running for sheriff. So I think there's some value and wisdom in doing that, and that doesn't offend me in the least. I don't, however, want it in our deliberations to turn into a platform for any particular candidate, but information about who seeks the office for which we are to give advice and review, I think is important to us.
All right, so I think we should add that to the agenda for the next meeting also, to discuss what format that might take.
Diane Layden has her hand up.
Oh, Diane?
Thank you. I can't attend the in-person meeting on April 8th. I'll be at a conference in Las Cruces of the Historical Society of New Mexico. Unless there's a way I can call in or get in from out of town, I can't attend.
Well, thank you for that, for the heads up on. Yes.
Madam Chair, that's two members of the board who will not be in attendance. I think Diane Dosal said basically the same thing, that she would try to phone in and perhaps be available for a portion. Do we need to consider moving this particular meeting to another date in light of that? I mean, will we have a quorum? Let's see. But we'll have a quorum, but kind of barely. I'm not opposed to moving to accommodate the board members that can't make the meeting, Madam Chair.
Well, then the next meeting date, and it would also have to be when Danette would be available.
And then we're state get back on track. So if we keep changing it every month, then how are we going to get back on track?
I don't know. And the following weekend, you know, we get into the Easter weekend and the Passover weekend. I'm just looking at all these holidays that come up on my calendar. You know, so then we'd be looking at the end of the month. So, oh, I see Danette's hand is up.
Yes, just a suggestion, just because Crystal and I have talked about having to do the meeting both Zoom and live. If we could move it to be on schedule, start that second Friday of May, that gives us enough time to, you know, get a place within the county building, secure a place, and maybe do a couple of trial runs with the equipment to ensure that we could do both.
So you're suggesting maybe we have the next meeting virtually, the April meeting virtually, instead of in person, and give you a little more time?
I was suggesting maybe, since you're going to have a small quorum, that we get back on schedule aiming for May.
Okay.
No April meeting, and that way that gives us time to get everything in order for having a meeting that we could do virtually and in person.
Madam Chair, I'll so move.
Second.
I'm confused. Are we not going to have a meeting in April, or it'll be virtual?
That was the intent of the motion.
To skip, because we've already skipped January. So what I'm thinking though is possibly we could just do what we've been doing next month and then aim for an in-person meeting in May.
I'll amend my motion. I'm fine with that.
All right. Any
So
second?
just for the purpose of the minutes, we're going to, Judge Joel moves to have a virtual meeting April 8th and then the in-person meeting in May. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Great. Second?
I'll second.
Okay, Debbie Dodge seconds. So the motion is passed. So our next meeting will be on April 8th at 11. So on the regular schedule via Zoom. And in the interim, between now and the May meeting, we'll try to coordinate everything so we can meet in person and with a hybrid option. All right. Any other suggestions for topics for the next meeting? All right, then.
Madam Chair, I know because you worked so hard on that report that we need to be out early in making sure that we are a committee of the whole and preparation for our next report. So there are things that we probably need to get on the agenda accordingly. And so maybe our next report need be put on the agenda.
Okay, I second that. Am I allowed to second as the vice chair?
You bet.
Okay, I second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, anybody opposed to that, to adding that to the agenda for the April 8th meeting? No one opposed. Okay, and I note that Michael Wismer had to leave early. But we still have the unanimity of the 5 people who are here. So the final item is to welcome Danette Gonzalez to our group. And you've been very patient and waited through this whole meeting, but I think we're all we're sorry to lose Crystal, who's been wonderful, but we are happy to welcome you and to work with you, and we look forward to that.
Thank you. Look forward to it.
It looks like Dr. Leiden has her hand up.
I'd like to commend Crystal for her excellent work. And I know she has changes coming in the future. I hope she'll let us know about her career as it progresses. Thank you so much for your wonderful work.
Thank you, Dr. Leiden.
Madam Chair, and I see Diane Layden may be wanting to say something too. I certainly, as chair, want to thank Crystal for all she's done to make our success possible. She's been a tireless worker for us and moreover put up with me, and it is greatly appreciated. I hope that we'll have the opportunity at some point to celebrate your contributions more appropriately.
Yeah.
But I certainly, in saying this, welcome Danette and look forward to working with her. And if I need a rebuttal on the information that Crystal is giving you about me, I reserve a little time to do that. I don't want to scare you away, so I'll end with thanks and welcome and turn it back over to you, Madam Chair.
Well, thank you. And I second all of those sentiments to Crystal and to Danette. So thank you both. And I think with that, and Danette, you should feel free to reach out to any one of us if you have questions or just are unsure of something. I'm sure Crystal can give you the best guidance, but we're also totally available and approachable, so we want you to know that. And with that, if nobody has anything else,
I would just like to say that. Sorry,
go ahead, Crystal, please go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say I really appreciated working with the board and DCSO. I really enjoyed my time working with all of you. Definitely gonna miss you all very much. But I'm gonna help Danette, and I'm hopeful when you do have your in-person meeting that I can go ahead and stop in.
All right.
we look forward to that.
Yeah.
And I also wanted to thank Under Sheriff Corrin and Sergeant Fredrickson for taking the time today. It's been very helpful. And to Floyd, and to all the members of the board. So if there is nothing else.
One more thing, Madam Chair.
Sorry.
I just wanted to publicly thank you for taking up the mantle today You did an incredible job. And the little things that I'm able to do for this board, I do without ego. And so let's spread the wealth, please. You all, as you step up, there are opportunities for public appearances, and you know, don't feel like I need to lead this thing in any respect. And it's good to know that we have dedicated and qualified people to assist in this task. And it makes it much easier for me knowing that. So thank you, Madam Chair, for your work today, your work throughout the past year. And I thank my other board members and anticipate that they will be doing what you did today. Thank you.
All right, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Judge Jewell. And with that, if there is nothing else, this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.